Good evening. Can every Srihari, is that you?
Yes, I hear you just fine.
Okay, we have this new microphone. We're having difficulty making it work properly. So I'm going back to the default. So anyway, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Gita Wisdom with Lakshmi. I hope you all had a great weekend, and I hope this week is a happy, healthy, and holy one for sure. We're going to continue with the Bhagavad Gita. One of my favorite chapters is the fourth chapter. So let us begin. Fourth chapter and text text 6, I believe. I think the last one that we did was text 5, where Krishna told Arjuna, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. So what we're getting into now, there's a couple of things that's going on in this part of the fourth chapter. Krishna is clearly establishing who he is. Because Arjuna asked, if you remember, Arjuna asked the question, how is it possible that you're here with me? You know, we're friends, and you're saying to me that you delivered this knowledge to Surya, and Surya lived and has lived for many, many, many thousands of years. That's a long time ago. And this is why Krishna says he's making the distinction between who he is as a supreme and who Arjuna is and who we are as living entities. Many, many births. So Krishna is saying, he's reiterating the points that he was making in the second chapter, that we're eternal living entities. That's who we really are, right? Natvevaham jatu nasam natwang name janadipa. Never was there a time when I did not exist, Krishna, nor you, Arjuna, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So Krishna was clearly establishing the eternality of the soul. So then he's saying here, okay, we've passed these many births, and this is an important principle to really wrap your mind around eternality. The constitutional nature of the soul is such it ananda, eternality, knowledge, and bliss. That is who we really are. And that is one of the ways that Krishna establishes the fact that there's a distinction between the body, the mind, the intellect, and the ego. Those are all in relationship to the body. The body, the senses in the body, the mind, one of the capacities of the mind, or actually two capacities of the mind, according to Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, is the mind, the overarching chitta, has the mind which takes in knowledge, data, information coming from the senses, and categorizes it, memorizes it, and makes sense of it all. Another aspect of the mind is the intellect. So the mind will accept and reject. The intellect will be the discriminating factor. What is good for you, what is not good for you, what to avoid, what to accept, etc. And the ego, the ahamkara, is the identity, what the soul identifies while embodied. I am, and this is mine. Those are the two aspects of the ego. So Krishna has established all this previously. And what he's saying here is many, many births. So this scenario is not a singular incident. People who are not in knowledge of the true nature of their existence, the eternality, that they're eternal beings. The Christians have an interesting concept of eternality. They say you are born and then you live on. So it means you have a beginning. That is not what Krishna is talking about here in Bhagavad Gita, that we always existed and always will exist. So that eternality, and Krishna, when he says this, he's taking into consideration that by now, after reading the second chapter, you're at least aware of whether you accept that concept or not, but you're aware of that because Krishna went through great pains to establish that point in the second chapter. So he's saying many, many births in the scope of eternality. We always were and we always will be. And in that so-called past, because really there is no past in eternality. I mean, past is a mental construct of the ego when we are now here. We think of past and present, but really we exist. And the true nature of time for the eternal soul is present, always present. Past and future is a construct, is a mental construct of the soul identifying with this material body and this material world. So what does he say? Many, many births, both you and I have passed. What's the difference between you, Arjuna, and me, Krishna? I remember them all. Because Krishna has incarnated many, many times, as he'll establish in the upcoming verses. He's been here before, again and again, to establish Dharma, to protect his devotees, to take care of the demoniac, both the powerful demons and the demoniac mentality. All of these things will be coming up. So Krishna says, I've been here many, many times. I remember each time that I manifest, but you do not. And why? Because the nature, the constitutional nature of the supreme being, the supreme soul, God, however you may term it, the constitutional nature of is unlimited, unfathomable, omnipotent, omniscient. That is his nature. So he's saying, in the realm of godness, who I am, then I've come many, many times. I don't forget. In my capacity as supreme, I don't forget when I've been here. That's one of the things to understand. I do not forget, but you do. Why? Because, and this is a very interesting concept that you should really try to wrap your mind around, that the soul is qualitatively the same as the supreme, its source. Qualitatively. That means as the supreme is Satchit Ananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss, that's the constitution of the supreme. It's also the constitution of the soul. What's the difference here? Which explains many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, you cannot. The difference is quantitatively. That's the difference. So you understand the point here? That the soul, your soul, my soul, is finite. It's finite Satchit Ananda. Whereas the Supreme Soul is infinite Satchit Ananda. The analogy that's used quite often is the ocean and the drop of ocean water. I was in the ocean today. My wife and I try to go every day to do our japa and to swim. And we were sitting in the ocean, and my wife was saying this because she comes from a Ayurvedic perspective, and she was saying, the fact that we're in the ocean and we're soaking for an hour every day, it's relieving our body of all toxins. And I said, yeah, that's wonderful. And she was making the point, she was telling me that she had a conversation with one of her patients, and even though her patient lived near the beach, that patient was never going to the ocean. And my wife chastised her. She said, you've got one of the best healing remedies right in you, practically speaking, in your backyard, and you never go there. That if you go there and you soak in the ocean for an hour a day, it relieves lots of toxins. Do you have stiff joints? Do you have headaches? Do you have all of these things, that come upon us when we're growing old? This is really due to a buildup of toxins. So if we go to the ocean, so we were sitting in there, and my wife said to me, if you had a choice of living in the mountains or living by the ocean, what would you do? And immediately I said, the ocean. I said, I would prefer the ocean. I mean, the mountains are usually beautiful, but there are a lot of bugs, in the mountains, and that bite you, the ticks and all kinds of things. And then I looked behind me, which was the ocean, and I said, vastness. Look at the vastness of this ocean. So that is a description of Brahman and Param Brahman. Brahman actually means vastness. But when you take a drop of water from that vastness, what is the difference? Qualitatively, it contains the same minerals, right? It has water, it has salt, and a whole range of different types of minerals. So whatever the vastness contains, the drop contains. So the drop has the qualities of the vastness, but quantitatively, it's just a drop. It's small, it's finite. So the soul is that way. It contains our constitution of Satchidananda, eternality, knowledge, and bliss. Is that we have that because the very source of the soul, the supreme soul, the supreme personality of Godhead in his feature, the Brahman, the energy that which comprises the Satchidananda, that has the same quality. So qualitatively, we're the same, but quantitatively, we're different. So many, many births both you and I have passed. That means the vastness, the potency, the energy of the vastness never forgets. Krishna never forgets. But the finiteness of the soul qualifies it spiritual energy, but the energy, the prefix to that Shakti is Tatashta. And what is Tatashta? Speaking of the ocean, Tatashta means that place on the beach that is sometimes covered with water and sometimes not. That is Tatashta. And why is the soul called Tatashta? Because the soul, because of its finiteness, can sometimes be covered by the material energy and can also be free of the material energy. That is the meaning of Tatashta Shakti. And that is what Krishna is saying here. Many, many births, both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them. You cannot. So Krishna, he's doing many, many things. He's reiterating the point that we're not the body, we're spirit soul, and the constitution of the spirit soul is Satchidananda. He's reiterating that point from the second chapter, and he's telling Arjuna there's a difference. Although we're both spiritual energy, one spiritual energy, the energy of Bhagavan, the energy of the Supreme, is infinite. And therefore, in the infiniteness of the Supreme, there is not forgetfulness. There's not the ability to forget. So Krishna is saying, I remember all these births that I've taken. I was Ram. I was Varaha. I was Vamana. There's the Das Avatar, which are the famous incarnations. But Krishna is saying, I remember those. I manifest in Satya Yuga, in Treta Yuga, in Dwapara Yuga, in Kali Yuga. I manifest in these different ways. But so did you. You were here in one capacity or the other. But can you remember your Satya Yuga manifestation or your Treta Yuga manifestation or your Dwapara Yuga manifestation? You can't remember. Neither can I. So this is what Krishna is saying. Many, many births, both you and I have passed. I can remember them all. You cannot. So he's establishing, in answer to Arjuna's question, how is it possible that you delivered this knowledge to Surya, and Surya delivered it to Manu, and Manu delivered it to Ishwar? How is that possible? This happened so long ago. And Krishna is saying, we are all eternal. We don't come into being at some point and then exist, or we're singular in our existence. This is the only existence that we have. Imagine if you can accept that hypothetically or intellectually. Imagine, now apply that to our reality. What is one of the biggest fears that we experience? It's death. But death is not cease to exist. Death means that the body can no longer the material body that you're in can no longer maintain the life force due to whatever the reason may be. Ultimately, it's karma, because, according to our karma, we get a certain number of breaths when we incarnate in these different bodies. So we get a certain number of breaths. So karmically, we're destined to live so long. And that karma may manifest in the form of a disease or car accident or whatever the reason may be. But put it into perspective. If this is actually true, if we can go beyond hypothesis and accept this as our reality, it can do away with the fear of death. And that's the kind of stable mindset that we need at the point where the soul is leaving the body. That is the kind of stable mindset we need to have to remember our relationship with God, with the Supreme. Because Krishna says in the 8th chapter that what you're thinking of at the time of death, at the time of soul leaving body, I don't even want to say death, because what that means is that infers maybe the Judeo-Christian understanding or the atheistic understanding that we only have singular existence. But no, what it means at the time that the soul leaves the body, awareness is still there. Consciousness is still there. It's not that consciousness remains or disintegrates from the body. The consciousness is in the soul. It separates. At that time of separation, consciousness is still present. And if we're able to have a steady mind, why does Patanjali say yogas chitta britti narodaha? Why do we have to be stable or calm in mind in order to be in yoga? Because yoga means to connect or to link or union. So at the time of death, we have to connect to our true spiritual nature in relationship with the Supreme. And the only way we can do that is if we have this peaceful mind. If we are not freaked out when you can't take that last breath, right? When there is a focus and understanding that you are consciousness, and now the apparatus that you're in, the machine, yantra rudhani mayaya, Krishna says, calls the body in the Bhagavad Gita, it calls the body yantra rudhani maya. Yantra means machine, made of the material energy. So when you get out of your car, right, there's separation between the machine, like my car is in my driveway. I'm totally separate. I'm outside of it. It's not running. I am. It's not conscious. I am. I am conscious. And I have existence apart from that machine called, well, my car is called a Pacifica, that minivan. It has, so I have consciousness beyond the machine. When I'm in the machine reflects my consciousness. How does it reflect my consciousness? I put it into drive. What does that mean? I'm telling the machine, go forward. What if I put it in reverse? I'm telling the machine to go backwards. So the machine is reflecting my consciousness. So Krishna says, Yantra Rudhani Mayaya, the body is a machine made of material energy. And that machine is reflective of consciousness. So at the time of death, consciousness is still present in the soul. It's just that consciousness does not emanate anymore from the body. The body is no longer without the presence of the soul. The body can no longer reflect consciousness. So what Krishna is saying at the time of death, if we have the presence of mind to think of our loving relationship with the Supreme, that thought process, that conscious awareness of that relationship propels us to that relationship. Now let's take a step back. What if we don't have that consciousness? So what happens is the nature of the machine is that when there's separation going to happen, the mind is generating all of its memories. It's one of the functions of the mind is to memorize. So it's generating all of these memories. And if you think you're, if you think you are, if you think you are that machine, right? Those images of memories you're attached to. So that's what you're thinking of at the time of death. Your attachment. What is your attachment? Well, everyone has a different life and a different set of attachments. So what is your attachment? What are you cultivating as a life? Life means journey, right? Everyone can agree life is journey. So what is your destination in your journey? If you don't have a destination in your journey, or if you've adopted an erroneous destination, in other words, say you want to go, to Victor's house in West Palm Beach, but you have the wrong address. Maybe you have Angelica's house, and you put Angelica's address to go to Victor's house. Are you going to end up at Victor's house as your destination? No, you're going to end up in the wrong destination. So this is what happens when we don't have intention in our life, when we're not cultivating an understanding of what is destination, what is the journey of life for. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, what you contemplate during your life, dhyayato vishayang pumsas, sangas, teshubhajayate. Sangha means, what are you associating with? Whatever you're lending your consciousness to, that is what you're going to become attached to. And that is going to reflect strongly at that separation time of soul and body. The mind will reflect upon those attachments. And yoga means to cultivate an awareness, number one, of your awareness, an awareness of your awareness, which means you understand where consciousness lies so that you're not bewildered at the time of death when the mind goes out, blanks out. The consciousness is still there and you're aware of that. Oh, okay. Consciousness, the thought, what I'm perceiving, that's me. And the body, that's going. So that kind of understanding has to be there. And it has to be cultivated, just like anything you want to learn. It's a cultivation process. You have to practice. And that's the definition of sadhana. Sadhana means to practice repeatedly over a long period of time. So the purpose of yoga is to bring you to that destination. Where are you focusing your attention? In bhakti, it's focusing your attention on Bhagavan. Whether Bhagavan in the feature of Krishna, Bhagavan in the feature of Vishnu, Bhagavan in the feature of Ram, and all of those Bhagavan features have a mood. It's called bhav. It has a mood. So the sadhana that you perform for Ram is different than the sadhana that you may perform for Krishna or Shiva or any of the various types of incarnations or avatars, Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, any manifestation of the Supreme, your destination has to be clear. You've got to put the right address in there at that time. Just like the critical time of you getting in your car to go over Victor's house, that critical time, you have to put Victor's address in your GPS rather than Angelica's address if you want to reach your destination. So that's what this verse is referring to. You can't. The Tatashta Shakti, the finite living entity, can be covered. And that covering causes forgetfulness of one's real position. We'll move on to text 6. Again, this verse is Krishna further elaborating on who he is and why he's to be accepted as an authority above and beyond any authority. Ajopi son of Yayatma, Bhutanam Ishwaro Pisam, Prakritim Swam Adishtaya Sambhavam Yatma Mayaya. Although I am unborn, see, Aja, first word, I am unborn. That's what Krishna says. And my transcendental body never deteriorates. And here one may say, okay, Lakshmi, you just spent 15 minutes establishing that I'm eternal, which means I am also unborn. True. But then Krishna says, my body, as I appear in my original form, it's a transcendental body, and that body doesn't break down. Unlike the bodies that we have, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. I had a gross experience the other day. My dog is a real hunter, and which is good for us because the iguanas are rampant here, and they eat a lot of my wife has a lot of plants. She has over 400 potted plants and so many other plants that are in the ground, not in pots. So without a dog, we found that we were losing a lot of plants. So our dog is a real hunter, and he hunts iguanas. And the other day I found a dead iguana on my patio, which is okay. I'm used to that. But then I realized this iguana doesn't look like the other ones she's killed. And I realized that she dug it up. It was a dead iguana for when I first moved here, that when my dog killed an iguana, I would bury it. And then my wife said, please don't do that. Don't contaminate our property by burying all these dead bodies here. So what I realized is that iguana that looked so gross was a dead iguana that had been deteriorating. So that's the future of the body, folks. I'm sorry to admit it. That's our future. This body will break down. It will return to whence it came. The earth elements, the fire elements, the air element, the water element, it all goes back. Consciousness remains. So Krishna is saying, I am unborn. My body, my transcendental, he prefixes body, puts an adjective in front of the body, transcendental body, never deteriorates, and then further makes the point, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So this further underscores who Krishna is, separate from Arjuna and separate from us. Okay, text 7. This is a great verse. Yada yada hi dharmasya. So you look at yada yada, whenever and wherever. That's what that means. Hi dharmasya, of dharma. Wherever and whenever there's dharma, and it's in decline, right? O descendant of Bharata, referring to Arjuna, and a predominant rise of irreligion. So what the corollary is being drawn when there is a diminishing of dharma, and we'll discuss exactly what dharma is, when there's righteous activities, responsible activities, ethical behavior, etc., when there's a decline in dharma, then there's an increase in adharma. That's why Krishna said in one of the first, I think it was first, second, or third verse of the of the fourth chapter. He said, "Evam param praptim rajarsheo vida." Yeah, he uses the word rajarsheo. That means saintly king. That means Krishna is entrusting this knowledge that he's given to humanity, to those that are qualified. And who was qualified according to Krishna? Kings that were saints, because they would not use religion as a mechanism to control people, like in the Council of Nicaea, the various councils of Nicaea in the Catholic and the Christian Church, where the kings wanted to get together and make a presentation of Christianity that would kind of subjugate the population. No, Rajarsheo Vidu, the saintly kings. Saintly king, what does that mean? Their only interest is in the well-being of their citizens. And well-being does not only mean that they're fed, they have enough money, they have a place to live, etc., etc. Even that we don't see nowadays. We don't see that kind of concern. But a Rajarshi, a saintly king, that's their concern. And when you understand that, we see how far off the mark leadership in 2025 actually is. We see how far off the mark they are. Why? Because Dharma. When Dharma is upheld, that's really the meaning of Dharma. Um, let's see. What do I have here? I have some notes here. Yeah. The Sanskrit word dharma refers to the principles of upholding. So literally the Sanskrit of dharma means to uphold, to hold, to hold up. What are we upholding? Law. Why law? Law keeps society from being chaos. When there's laws and you can impose those laws, then it protects. Laws will protect those that follow the laws. So what Dharma upholds laws, it upholds duty, it upholds righteousness. That's Dharma. And it has its root in Dri or Dri, meaning to hold, to support, or maintain. Dharma is a multifaceted concept in philosophy and religion, signifying not only personal duties or ethical responsibilities, but also the cosmic order that sustains the universe. So it's not just laws that govern a certain nation, but it's actually intrinsic within the fiber of the universe. So that's how significant Dharma actually is. It means by being dharmic and understanding what Dharma actually is, we are aligning ourselves with the very principles, universal principles. We are aligning ourselves with that. And when there is an alignment between our behavior and the universal principles of Dharma, then life as we know it can be as flowing as it can possibly be. In other words, we can be happy. We can be flowing as a person in terms of all the things that we experience, both for ourselves and our family. So Dharma means that it's the cosmic order that sustains the universe. Primary definitions would be duty, law, righteousness, cosmic order, truth, moral responsibility. It is the principle or set of behaviors that maintains society, nature, and life, preventing chaos and promoting harmony. Intrinsic quality. We can understand Dharma by everything has Dharma. Everything has its Dharma. It means its intrinsic qualities. For instance, what would be the Dharma of fire? Who would like to take a guess at what the Dharma, the intrinsic quality of fire would be?
Eating light.
Heat,
There you go.
heat and light.
Yeah, that's right. Premarnava Jai Krishna. Good. Heat and light. Why? They are qualities which are inseparable from fire. What would be the dharma of water? Sri Hari, could you tell me what the dharma of water would be? If the dharma of fire is heat and light, what would be the dharma of water? Anyone?
Taste,
What's that? Jai Krishna?
taste, taste.
Taste?
Oh,
Yeah, there's certainly taste there.
liquidity.
Liquidity. The dharma of water be liquidity and its ability to put out fire. So every living entity has a dharma or an intrinsic quality. So when we live a dharmic life, we're actually living a life that is aligned with the basic, the most fundamental, essential qualities of humanity. So that is Dharma as it's being described. It is all living entities have an intrinsic nature. It operates by plants, require water, light, certain type of earth, at times to produce what they produce. So the dharma of a plant would be to produce whatever type of plant. Let's say the apple tree. The dharma of the apple tree would be to produce apple blossoms and eventually the apple fruit and leaves and twigs and branches and a certain type of bark. That's all the dharma of that plant. So every living entity has its intrinsic nature, its intrinsic quality. So the understanding of dharma, this is what Krishna is saying. He's saying yada yada, whenever and wherever, doesn't matter. Dharma is such an important principle that I'll come to reestablish it. I promise that. Because when there is a decline in dharma, there's an increase in adharma. So when there's a decline in righteousness and duty and responsibility, there's an increase in whimsy, chaos, irresponsible, all of these things which are the opposite. And that's Kali Yuga in a nutshell, folks. Kali Yuga is where these things are actually, people look up to these things. People look up to adharmic behavior. How many people are in leadership positions? And what is their behavior like? It doesn't even matter anymore how a leader acts. That's how far adharma or irresponsibility and chaos has gotten. It doesn't even matter. A leader can be exposed in so many ways of how they're living a life and cultivating a mindset which is so contrary to the very core principles of the universe. So the end result is going to be not peace and harmony. The end result is going to be chaos. The end result is going to be suffering. The end result is going to be war. Nowadays, we scratch our head and wonder, hey, can things get any worse? And the answer is yes. Because what does Krishna say? There's a decline in dharmic behavior unless there is an injection of dharma by the Supreme Himself into the very fiber, the very core of existence. That's why He takes it upon Himself. That's why He says here, again and again, whenever and wherever. We look at driving. Can you imagine what it would be like driving on I-95 in South Florida without any laws? I mean, even with laws, it's a harrowing experience. What to speak if there were no laws, no speed limit, no, lane to lane, cutting people off, none of that.
But that's how it is here.
In Dominican Republic.
Almost 100%.
Yeah.
It's total chaos streets.
Yeah, and Puerto Rico also. And add the potholes in the street, and you got Puerto Rico driving. I remember one of my godbrothers came to see me, Drishta, and he rented a car, And he didn't get maybe more than a couple miles from the car rental place, and he hit a pothole and it bent his rim. And he had to hobble the car back to the rental place, and they had to give him a new car. Yeah. So yeah. And I don't know if you've ever been to Calcutta, but my God, it just is like doesn't seem like there's any driving laws there at all. I don't know. But in order to maintain order, sanity, there has to be laws like in traffic. Otherwise things get so chaotic, and society needs the same thing. And really, what we're trying to do with laws, because the one thing we should understand is there's been a great deal of research that has already been done in terms of Dharma. There's a whole section of the Vedas called Dharma Shastra, and the Manu Samhita and other Dharma Shastras. They scrutinized what is the best way to have order and peace in society. What are the best modalities of behavior in order to have peace in society? They've already done that. And in the age of Kali, this age, no one pays them any attention. People speculate and say, oh, if we govern the country this way, democracy or communism or Marxism or whatever, they're all grasping at straws. It's already been determined within the annals of the Vedas, and particularly the Dharma Shastras, to give us guidance how to live dharmically. Yudhisthira, one of the 5 Pandava brothers in the Mahabharata, he shows why he was called, the king of Dharma, because he literally he couldn't lie. That's one of the principles of Dharma, not to lie. One time he and his 4 brothers were wandering in exile, and they came upon a lake, and they were really thirsty. And then, first Nakula, and then drank the water and fell unconscious. Sahadev drank the water, fell unconscious. Then Bhima and Arjuna did the same. They all fell unconscious. Yudhisthira found them, and they appeared to be on the brink of death. And sitting on the tree was Yaksha, and he was disguised. I forget what his disguise was. I believe it was some type of bird, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, he told each of the previous 4 Pandavas that do not drink the water. The water is poison. And the only way you can get beyond that is if you answer these questions. And they refused. They drank the water in defiance, and they were on the brink of death. Yudhisthira came, and Yudhisthira agreed. Okay, I'll answer your questions. Shoot. So the Yaksha had 100 questions, and they were deep philosophical questions and quite tricky. And Yudhisthira answered all of the questions profoundly. And the Yaksha was very impressed, and he said, okay, I'll give you, because I'm so impressed with you, Yudhisthira, I'll give you the choice. Which one of your 4 brothers would you like to be revived? I can only revive one. Which one? So Yudhisthira said Nakula. And, according to the Mahabharata, this was, why did he choose Nakula? So the answer in the Mahabharata is Yudhisthira was so dharmic that his father, Pandu, had 2 wives, Queen Kunti and Queen Madri. So Madri's boys were Nakula and Sahadev. Kunti's boys were Yudhisthira, Arjuna, and Bhima. And Yudhisthira understood. Kunti has one boy alive, me. Madri doesn't have any boys alive. They're both Nakula and Sahadev are going. They're gone. So I cannot allow her to have so much pain. So even though it didn't make any sense, because actually Bhima and Arjuna were kind of his favorites and they were powerful warriors and they had so many advantages, but because of his dharmic attitude, he didn't want to see his stepmom suffer. So this is a story about Yudhisthira, and there are many, many stories about Yudhisthira and his dharmic behavior. And the end result of that, when a king or a leader acts dharmically, the benefit is experienced by all society. Everyone under their jurisdiction benefits from dharmic behavior. So I'm bringing all these points up because this is an important verse, and Krishna is saying, I'll come to reestablish Dharma. And this is how important Dharma is. The four wheels that we ride on in our journey of life are kama, artha, dharma, and moksha. Kama means gratification. Artha means economic development. Dharma, we just discussed. Ultimately, those three are to bring us to the point of moksha, or liberation, or remembrance of our relationship with the Supreme at the time of death. So Dharma is it's an important wheel in our journey of life. So one may say, how do I know? What is Dharma? I've had that question asked when I gave the yoga teacher training courses and I talk a bit about Dharma. A person may say, how do I know? So there's four ways you can know Dharma. What is Dharma? The Vedas, or Shruti, within the core of the Vedic literature, there is Dharma, and one can understand it very clearly. Now, Vedas are very difficult to understand, and one must be qualified to read the Vedas, the four Vedas, the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Atharva Veda, and the Sama Veda. Very difficult to read. They're very, complicated Sanskrit, etc. So the second way to know is the Smriti. Smriti or like the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Itihasyas, the Dharma Shastras. These were meant for the general populace to read. So if you read the Mahabharata, you'll get all about Dharma, how to behave, responsible behavior. Ramayana, you'll get all about Dharma, responsible behavior, etc. So those are the first two, the Shruti and the Smriti, the Vedas and the Puranas and the Mahabharata and Ramayana. These are accessible to the general mass of people. The third way is called Sadachar. Sadachar means by example, virtuous conduct, good manners, approved usage, right practice, observance. It describes the moral standards and proper customs followed by virtuous or saintly individuals, guiding one's actions in daily life. So it is that, but it also includes someone who is living according to those principles. If we observe the actions of a dharmic person, it's a very powerful educational tool. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said of philosophy and example is more powerful because you can actually see the philosophy in action. And then what's the fourth one? Well, if you can't do any of those three, especially in the age of Pali, it's very difficult to read the Vedas. Some people don't believe in the Mahabharata and Ramayana, and some people don't have the association of sadhus who are exemplary in their behavior. What do? So you do what you like. That is the answer. And that is very simply put in the Vedic literatures. You do what you like. What does that mean? Oh, well, I like to go to the Dairy Queen every Saturday night. Is that dharmic behavior? Now, what it means is the way you like to be treated. Do you like to be lied to? Do you like to have someone cheat you? Would you like to have someone steal from you? Would you like any of those things? No, you wouldn't like it. So how you would like to be treated, that's the way you would treat others. And that can be uh, your dharma, your duty, your responsibility. So I'll stop here. Just wanted to give you a little taste. I spent a lot of time in these first verses because they're really, really important verses. We'll move a little faster through the rest of the fourth chapter. So anyone, if you can, if you're not embarrassed, can you uh, go on camera so we could talk? I could see you. Thank you. Thank you, Trish and Victor. See your beautiful faces. Um, anyone have any questions or comments? There she is. Hey, Anurada. How are you? Anyone have any questions or comments they would like to ask? And there's Sri Hari. Good to see you, my
The
friend.
concept of the soul was very powerful. That when we leave the body, the consciousness is still there, and so if you're attached to the body, if you haven't practiced, then you will suffer a lot, and you will. I mean, it's still probably even if you practice, because we've been here like I'm in my 50s, so it's been a while, and but it's very powerful. You compare how also going back to time. Time is like a construct because we are attached to the body. We in the spiritual world we also see the past, but we always in the present, which is very consoling. Um,
Yeah.
as you grow older.
Well, that's the time frame of the spiritual world, Prabhupada says. The time frame of the spiritual world is present. We don't go back into the past, or we don't project into the future. It's being totally present. And then when you look at like Buddhism or mindfulness, mindful meditation, what are they saying? That, being present in the moment is the best way to live a peaceful life, because that's the time frame of spirituality. It's present. And the time frame in the material realm, that's when time is perceived as having those three divisions. It's caused by perception, the covering that we are experiencing due to our connection with or interaction with the material nature, causes that kind of threefold perception of time. But time really doesn't have that in its true nature, in its real nature. Just like we don't experience disease on the platform of the soul. That only applies to the material elements, the way they interact or don't interact properly. Toxins are the biggest causes of disease. When we live a lifestyle which is not in alignment, proper alignment, then, we get toxic, and toxins settle in a constitutionally weak part of your body. Like constitutionally, my liver is my weak part of my body. I had hepatitis C, I had sluggish digestion, etc. So I have to be very careful, that I don't get toxic. I keep a clean diet. I detox every once in a while. I do actions of detoxification, like soaking in the ocean or soaking in a body of water. All of these things, eating the right foods at the right times, helps the body to detoxify. Certain herbs helps the body to detoxify, etc. So, just to keep aware of that, and we'll be in harmony with the elements around us. Yes, well, thank you, Premarnava. Thanks a lot for sharing that insight. Anyone else have something they would like to say?
Hi, Lakshmi.
Hey,
So
Trish.
when you're talking about Dharma, could it be also that when something comes into your awareness, that it becomes your responsibility? And oftentimes we ignore things that we should be taking action on.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good observation. Yeah, that's part of being responsible, isn't it? Right? If you have a child, right, and you bring the child to the park, and then you just kind of sit down and go on your phone, you can get lost on your phone, and the child's out there, part of responsibility is when things are brought into your awareness. And, part of our responsibility is, if we were to have a child in that situation, is to be aware of what's going to come. Here comes a stranger, this guy. Okay, I don't want to image, but I have to be aware that this person is around my child, and I have to be responsible and be aware of that. So yeah, things come into our purview, and we should respond to that, and that is part of Dharma responsibility to us. We also have responsibility to ourselves. We can't be irresponsible to ourselves. Very, very nice. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else have any observation or question or comment they would like to share? Okay. Well, thank you folks very much for joining me this evening. I'll be here next week, next Tuesday. And then, like I said, next Tuesday is, I believe, the 16th. And that I leave for India on the 18th. And in all my situations in India, I should have the ability to do Zoom. I just have to figure out the time. So if it's 7 o'clock here in Delhi or Vrindavan, let me look at that, what time it'll be. It's about 10 hours ahead of time, which is
It will be
okay.
4:30 there in India. 4:30 a.m.
Okay. So it's doable because nothing like being in India and up early in the morning in Vrindavan. So, but I will keep you informed by next week. We'll let you know, and it will be three Tuesdays after the next class, and I'll keep you informed. But that should be doable for me to get up at 4 o'clock and get ready and join you. I would greatly appreciate your association. So thank you very much, folks. You all have a happy, healthy, and holy week, and look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. And also keep on your calendar. Our program at our house will be October 25th after I return from India on October 12th. Hopefully, you will see me like this rather than like that. I'm hoping that the cataract surgery will be totally successful.
You're giving us some hints of what you're going to do.
Yeah, the first couple of days I'm there will be all about cataract surgery, and then the rest of the time there will be in Vrindavan with Sri Hari. I'll be with Sri Hari, and we'll be going to
Nice.
all the wonderful holy places in Vrindavan. And I wanted to bring up too that my wife is going on a retreat with Gora in January. And I can tell you, I was thinking of all you. I was thinking of Trish and Victor and Angelica. I don't know based on your schedule. I know it'd be very difficult for you, Victor, because you're a teacher, but there's a couple of weeks in January where Gauravani and his mother Rukmini and Radhanath Swami are putting on a retreat at Govardhan Eco Village, which is an absolutely amazing place. And there, from that place, they're going to the flower festival in Mumbai at the Chowpatty temple there. And that is an amazing festival also. So if any of you have the ability, I can guarantee you your bhakti creeper, your bhakti heart will blossom like crazy, because it's just it's an adventure in love of God. And I can guarantee you it'll be transformative. I know it's difficult time of the year, but if you do have the liberty to take a vacation or something like that, I don't think you would ever regret it. So that's my plug for that. I make no profit on it. I just felt compelled to share that opportunity for a wonderful experience. And my wife will be there. You can hang out with her. Okay. Thanks so much, folks. We'll see you. Some of you I'll see tomorrow night, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Until we meet again.
Hare Krishna.
No.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bo.
Shivaya, Prabhu.